The new update is out now on the Korean server, and there's a bunch of things I want to check out that I didn't cover in the patch notes, along with some things I want to confirm how they actually work based on the translation errors from the patch notes. We'll have a look at the new artifact UI, the ability to actually upgrade the skill cores that you extract from tier 1 arch bosses, those new weapon skill changes, with the fact that the Raider class is back on the menu with the Cordy crossbow spinners. The devs have pretty much done a 360 and have brought it back. So let's have a closer look, first of all, at those new skill cores. Yes, you will be able to upgrade them, which is awesome and should have been there from the start. This allows you to extract that skill core from a tier 1 arch boss weapon like my Tevent tier 1, and then rather than waiting to upgrade it here where you need to trade that in, I can simply upgrade that skill core. Pretty much the same cost other than 200 omnipotence parchments, and that's instead of these other materials. The best thing about this new change is the fact you no longer need to upgrade your tier 1 arch boss weapon. If you get it brand new now, do not upgrade it. Simply go and extract that skill core and you'll be able to upgrade that skill core for an awful lot cheaper. However, let's just wait till it's confirmed we're getting that on global and that we're getting it with this next update, because you don't want to be left stranded with a skill core that you can't upgrade just because the global devs decided not to add it to our version. But let's have a look at the life skill bag. Looking in our inventory, we can now see a new tab here where all of your life skill like foods and ingredients should go. For me, currently it's empty, but you need to go to your bank, and once you take them out of your bank, they should all end up in your life skill bag rather than actually taking up space. As you can see, they do. I'm adding them all to my inventory. The lag makes it so slow, but you can now see them all getting added here. And this is just huge improvement, freeing up a ton of inventory slots, and you can of course expand this further, even just using Solent for that. That's nice. And this can go to a maximum of 300. They have also added new lithograph entries, like here, add 3 of these weapons to armor pieces, you get 50 unlock stones and 130 conversion stones. I don't think this is enough, but yeah, I guess if you get some trash stuff and you don't want to convert it to entropy shards, this is an option. But it's still rather crazy that it costs this much to convert one stat to another stat. Now, in terms of the remedy changes here, apparently there's some translation issues. They're not converting defense ones to attack ones. What they're simply doing is splitting them up. So now you simply have the recipes of the quality ones and then the rare ones. They have not changed the recipes in any way. But we can have a look at some of the skill weapon changes. So for example, Blood Devo now looks like this here. It's only 20% of the incoming damage that you absorb from your teammates when you're linked. And this will just increase that by another 20%. Before this change, you had 40% at base and could increase it by another 30%. So you could absorb 70% of your entire party's damage, and now that will be a maximum of 40%. So a 30% nerf. It's pretty huge, but honestly in PvE, this is more of a good thing. The reason for that is because it'll be less likely you will die when teammates don't Q block while you have this active, just to give them the damage boost. And that damage boost is changed to now a 10% rather than plus 50. This is a nerf for the majority of the classes who have under 500 base damage. If you have over 500 base damage, then 10% increase is a buff, a net gain. But now let's look how they've brought the Raider class back with the Cordy crossbow. To add a bit of context, on Wednesday, July the 9th, they went and changed the sword and shield so that roar amplifier will no longer trigger on anything but close ranged attacks. You can see that in the description here. It now says converts the effects to deal 30% of base damage plus 9 to all targets within 3 meters whenever dealing melee attack damage. So you can now only trigger that with your sword and shield or any other melee weapon, but not like your crossbow. It would no longer trigger when it did before. What that meant was you would no longer gain that extra damage boost, that massive damage boost from Spectrum of Agony whenever you used your Annihilation Barrage shot. You would use this spin and no longer gain basically double damage as a result of the Sword and Shield Spectrum of Agony. However, today, July the 23rd, they've gone and changed that again. They stated as a bug fix though, that Spectrum of Agony will now trigger on long range and magical attacks when they are affected by Provoking Roar. This actually makes sense, as Spectrum of Agony never got updated to say it only triggers on melee attacks. It was only Roar Amplifier that was saying so. And this is now true. You can go to your targets and you can make sure to put Provoking Roar on them. And when you do so, you can see you now get Spectrum of Agony on all targets that have Provoking Roar. Therefore, you can now gain that damage boost while using the spin, so long as you manage to land that Provoking Roar on those targets. This is still not going to make Cordy as effective as it was, as it will require a little bit more prep. In most cases, people will use Chain Hook with the Bulwark of Invulnerability and pull people close to them, then pop Provoking Roar on them, and then do their spin and gain that extra damage. So yes, Raider is back, nearly at full effect, just with a slight skill increase. Make sure your targets have Provoking Roar before you go and spin. On the EU market, the Cordy crossbow price completely crashed on that date of July the 9th. I don't know where it's going to go out after this day. People who are experienced with the class will have to test it out, but yes, it is now possible to get that full damage output from Spectrum of Agony while spinning. And to confirm, this doesn't work on global. You can clearly see you put Provoking Roar on your targets and you can use ranged attacks and you don't trigger that. Versus the updated Korean server, you now do. As you can see, I'm hitting that dummy when I don't have it targeted. But now let's have a look at some of the spear changes. The patch notes were a little bit misleading, saying hit rate, when in fact it's supposed to translate as heavy attack chance. What they've gone and done more so affects PvE. Whenever you're using Unyielding Sentinel, the amount of heavy attack chance you gain is reduced. And similarly, when you use Sentinels of Bastion, that's also been reduced. The max values are posted here, 130 down to 90 and 200 down to 140. The crit chance change, this was for your retaliatory strike, is now in effect 628 max versus the 820 it was before. And they've completely removed that effect where you could extend the duration of your Enforcer. As you can see, that's now completely gone. So that's more of a nerf for PvE than anything in terms of those heavy attack nerfs. But finally, let's look at the artifact UI. So this has been updated and it looks quite a bit different. You now have all the different artifacts in your certain category that you select, say this one, and it shows up with all the different stats that they have. This allows you to just quickly see what stats they have rather than having to tooltip over every single one. You can now also select to unlock and lock all of the artifacts. You can search right here by selecting which stats you want to have on certain artifacts. So these are all the different sets. These are then all the different stats you can get on those sets. You can have different presets as well of which stats you've selected. You can also click compare here, and this will allow you to select different artifacts, and it will show you on this list exactly what stats will be changing based on the set you currently have equipped, and then the artifacts you could switch to. You simply right click to remove them or right click here to add them. You can select the filters to find certain artifacts. Say I want a certain type, then only those will show up. If I want, say, ones with max damage, then these would show up. And you can click fill as recommended. And then, yes, equip all, and it will automatically equip those artifacts. It will also put in purple the stats that you've selected here. If I also want base damage, I can select that, click apply. You can see how that becomes purple. It shows me I've achieved that stat. It helps a little bit just with the visual representation of sorting some of these artifacts, but it is nowhere near perfect. It's not as good as the current runebook system where you simply obtain one of every single type and then you have the flexibility to slot them in all the different gear pieces that you currently have. But it's at least a step in the right direction. But that's about it for the update and everything I wanted to cover. I did, however, want to look at the event, but that's not yet up on the Korean server and won't be until it's live for us. The Goblin event is in fact returning to its fullest, exactly how we've had it before. This will enable you to get that field boss gear much easier, like Spectral and Sacred, that have just skyrocketed in price, as we're getting the exact same Goblin chests from those goblins. And the event times is going to be what we have right now with the Arceum event. It's going to be 3 times on weekdays, 4 times on the weekends, and yes, you will find those goblins exactly where we found them before, out in the fields and in Abyss dungeons. But again, this doesn't start till Thursday on the Korean server, so I can't show you exactly, but again, those rewards are what we had in the Goblin Festival prior. So if you are hoping for any of that gear that's currently expensive, simply wait for that event. A special thank you to the support of my channel members, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.